Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Tanya, or TitaniumBuilt, whichever you want to call me. I don't prefer one over the other. As you guys are coming in, I would appreciate it if you could, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you do like true crime, and we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll get right into some things. I have a few different things to show you tonight. We got the unsealed search warrant for Brian Kohlberger came out today. Wasn't expecting that at all. So that came out today. So I have to read through that. I just got it. And it's a lot, guys. Like, it's a lot to go through. I think it's 47 or 49 pages. So. Also, if you'd like to join our membership, it is in the chat. I'll go ahead and paste it in there again in case you guys decide you want to join. Hello, everybody. It did. I'm exhausted today. So I didn't even know about the probable cause coming out until like a couple hours ago. Or not probable cause, but the unsealed search warrant. And they actually put the probable cause in there. So the first probable cause was 18 pages, and the new one that they put in here is 30 pages. So I'm not sure, maybe there's some, maybe it's a second officer's account of what happened, or maybe there's some juicy stuff in there we need to know about. So I'm going to go over that in tomorrow's live a little more in depth, but I am going to show you a quick video about it before we go to our Dr. Phil episode 2. Also, if you didn't check my videos out, if you're new to the channel, I did put a video out yesterday, I believe it was, over Brian Kohlberger and just the Instagram account associated to his name, the one that's been following the girls. So I was going to go ahead and add that to the stream here. So I did this, I highlighted this in the video because I thought it would look better for you guys. And now I don't know how to unhighlight it. So if it's highlighted a little funky, that's why. But I wanted to go over this because I didn't know if you guys had heard about this yet or not. And if you have no idea what we're talking about, we are talking about the Idaho 4 case. We're talking about Brian Kohlberger, the suspect that is in custody. He is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in November. So it says accused killer Brian Kohlberger repeatedly messaged one of the victims on Instagram. He was persistent and instigative source tells on the case tells people. So when this case first happened, when he first got arrested, we were doing a live. And I remember I'm never sleuthy like y'all are. I'm never like, get on their Facebook, get on their Instagram. Like, I never think of that. I don't know why, I just don't. So, but for him, I did. And I remember we were live, and I think we're going into maybe like a press conference or something. It was a point where I could like get away, and I remember I was trying to Instagram. I pulled up his Instagram. And when I pulled it up at the time, there was only 3 accounts. And one of the 3 accounts had like a following of, I think there was like 280 some people following him, and then he was following like 1,000 of those people, like 1,000 people in general, and 3 of the people were Zaina, Maddie, and Kaylee. So I remember seeing that, but I just thought it was a hoax because news travels so fast. I thought maybe it was a hoax, but they're saying that maybe it wasn't. It says 2 weeks before the slayings of 4 University of Idaho students last November, the man now accused of killing them sent a series of messages to one of the victims on Instagram. An investigator familiar with the case tells People. In late October, an account that authorities believe belonged to Brian Kohlberger sent a greeting to one of the female victims, the source says. When he didn't get a reply, he sent several more messages to her. He slid into one of the girls' DMs several times, but she didn't respond, the source tells People. Basically, it was just him saying, hey, how are you? But he did it again and again. Sounds like somebody young said that, sliding into the DMs. We got a lot of people in the chat. Hi, everybody. I didn't even go through the chat very well. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Roberta. Oh, rough day, no. Hopefully not for you. I had a rough day, too. Hello, Summer. AW. Hello. Maddie. Egyptian. Oh, I about ate my microphone there, guys, on that one. But it says he slid into their DMs. I must be someone young. Madison Mogan, Katie Gonzalez, Xana Coronado, and Ethan Chapin were all stabbed to death in an off-campus rental home in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th. A masked intruder entered the home and killed the 4 students with a fixed blade knife. More than a month later, authorities arrested Kohlberger, 28-year-old graduate student and teaching assistant at Washington State University. He was charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Kohlberger was arrested at his parents' Pennsylvania home on December 30th. He waived his extradition to Idaho, meaning he voluntarily agreed to return to the state to face charges against him. He was transported back to Idaho on January 4th. And I think, okay. It says, according to the probable cause affidavit obtained by People, one of the surviving victim roommates said she saw the killer. The roommate described a figure clad in black clothing and a mask who walked past her as the person left the crime scene. The affidavit also alleged that Kohlberger was linked to the crime scene from DNA and cell phone pings. Authorities remain tight-lipped about the alleged motive and the attack. They have not publicly discussed the relationship between Kohlberger and the victims. Kohlberger's now deleted Instagram account, which was viewed by People before it was removed, followed the accounts of Mogan, Gonzalez, and Coronado, but there was no public interaction. I wonder who took his account down. It has to be somebody in his family. Because, I mean, obviously it had to be someone in his family because they'd have to give him, like, he would have to be like, hey, this is my password. Get this stuff down, right? I mean, you can't do that in jail, so it's unclear why Kohlberger didn't get a response to his messages, but authorities say the victim may have missed them completely. And I talked about this in my video too. So if somebody messages you and like, and I think it says this on here too, and you don't have them, like if you're not following them, but they're following you, or if they're not following you at all and you're not following them, it'll go into like a message request. And I don't even know that my messages are there. Like, so I could have messages in there from like years. So not that I think that any of these girls would probably message him back. That's just my opinion. But yeah, because I mean, most of them were dating other people. She may not have seen them because they went into message requests, says the investigative source. Instagram users are not notified when they receive a message from someone they do not follow back, and the message goes into a special folder. We're still trying to determine how aware the victims were of his existence. There's no indication that he was getting frustrated with her lack of response, the source adds, but he was definitely persistent. And this is Kohlberger has not yet entered a plea. His next hearing isn't until June 26th. So that was the end of that one. So yeah, so he was following all 3 girls. It didn't say on here that he was following Dylan. It didn't say that he was following Bethany. So do you think that maybe he was just following the 3 victims and that's why the 3 victims became the 3 victims? You never know. I would ignore him. Yeah, I would too. I know I would. Even if I didn't have a boyfriend, like, but I ignore people on accident. Like I do all the time. She had the wrong chat. Did you have the wrong chat one? Hello, TF. I was wrong. What's going on here? Everyone's here? Okay. So that's all I had to show you with that. And then so today, they went ahead and they unsealed the search warrant for Kohlberger. And like I said, the first probable cause, it was 18 pages. The second one is 30 pages. And then they have other just documents on top of documents. So I was basically just going to go over this document with you today because this is the last page and it's pretty much what they took out. But I was on Twitter and I saw Brian Enton had came out, Enton, whatever, however you never pronounce that guy's name. You know, I love him, but I can't ever pronounce his name. So he came out with a little short video about it. So I thought, I'll just play the video for you guys. Better yet. Also, before I forget, I want to let you guys know about the contest. So if you guys get any, like if it's my picture, but it's not my name beside it, and you get like a comment and it says something like you won your like entry into the prize. That's not me. That's like some scam or spam or whatever it is. Like a couple people reach out to me. I didn't get to remove them in enough time. So if something like that happens, that's not me. We're only going to do the drawing live, and it'll be Saturday evening for our Saturday night live, which will probably be our live will probably start at 8:15. We'll probably do the drawing like halfway through the live, and then that way it gives people plenty of time this week to enter the drawing. So yeah, that's not me. I don't know. I guess it's just spam. But don't give them any information. I would never ask for personal information like that. I would never ask for money or anything like that. So that's not me. But I've noticed that happen on other creators too. So I guess that means we're getting bigger, guys. So the announcement will be this Saturday, the 21st, after the winner is announced. So I'm going to pull it up. It'll be like, I'll show you actually real quick. Let me see. Okay, I don't have it on there. I thought I did. Well, actually, I can show you, like, let me see. Let me see. There it is. So this is what it looks like. It's just a random comment picker. I just put the URL in, the giveaway, and then we'll pick it all together. So like, you know, so then whenever, if you're picked, just email me and it's TitaniumBuilt Boo, but I'll make sure that I remind you guys exactly, you know, on Saturday, and you'll just email me. And then I'll ask you to verify your account some way, like, you know, I have a little secret way to do that. So we'll verify your account without showing me anything personal. And then I will send you the cash money. So yeah, so then that was for our 5,000 subscriber giveaway. We are already almost to like 7,000, I think 6,000 subscribers, something like that. Let me see. Yeah, 5,600. We're already like on our way to 10,000, and then that doubles the price. So can't beat that. Can't beat it double price. So it's going to be a really good, it's a good group. You guys should join. It happens on Ryan Upchurch's account too. That's probably because he has a gazillion followers. Egyptian. But it does. Okay. So I could see, because yeah, I think I can see that. And it's like, oh, that's not me. And I didn't know how many, like, they can spam you like so many times really fast. And I'm pretty quick about like getting everybody and getting that stuff, like, you know, figured out. But I wanted to make sure. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and play Brian here. Let me make sure it's not blasting in your ears.
You'll remember we had that video, that exclusive video outside Koberger's apartment in Pullman, Washington, where you saw all of those detectives removing boxes and bags from the apartment. They just kept coming out with more and more stuff and loading it into evidence vans. But we never knew exactly what was inside the boxes or bags. Now we do, because the search warrant has become unsealed, and we have a breakdown of everything that was taken from inside that apartment that could be important to the investigation. Let me read it through real quick with you. One air-tight black glove, a Walmart receipt, 2 Marshall's receipts, a dust container from a vacuum, 8 possible hair strands, a Fire TV stick, 1 possible animal hair strand, several more possible pieces of hair and hair strands, a collection of a dark red spot. That certainly stands out. 2 cuttings from uncased pillow of reddish brown stain, and 2 top and bottom mattress cover packaged separately, also taken out. Very, very interesting. Again, this was not released until today. Obviously, a number of these items clearly were tested or in the process of being tested. We do not know how those tests panned out. That was not included.
Who let Brian Eaton inside? I just realized he's not, I was like, he's not wearing a jacket. I'm like, he is not cold. Look. So I wanted to actually pull it up for you. It didn't really show you that well. So it didn't show you very well what they actually seized. I have it like highlighted here too. But one sterile black glove, or it's like 1 disposable black glove, nitrate type black glove, 1 Walmart receipt with 1 Dickies tag, 2 Marshall's receipts. And if you don't have a Marshall's where you're from, I have a Marshall's here. What do they sell? Is it like a Gabe's or something? What's Marshall's? I always say that I should go in there. And then I never do. It's shoes, clothing, and home decor. Okay, so maybe it's like is it like a Kohl's kind of? So he has like 2 Marshall's receipts anyway. So that's for like clothing. It says they sell like clothing, shoes, home decor. So I'm gonna say shoes, clothing, maybe. Dust container from Bissell Power Force vacuum. 8 possible hair strands. And you know they're not going to be taking small hair strands, probably thinking they're hit. Like, no. 1 Fire TV stick with cord/plug. Oh. 1 possible animal hair strand. Murphy? Could it be? It's like a Ross. Okay. Marshall's like a Kohl's. Okay. Or like TJ Maxx. Okay. I need to go there sometime. What if it's, oh man, Murphy, I hope this is you, Murphy. 1 possible hair, another possible hair, another possible hair, 1 possible hair strand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hair strands, 1 computer tower, 1 collection of dark red spot collected without testing, 2 cuttings from uncased pillow of reddish/brown stain. Ew, he's that guy that don't have no pillowcases on his pillows. Larger stain tested. 2 top and bottom of mattress cover packaged separately, both labeled C, multiple stains. 1 tested. Ooh, so 1 was tested, so that's probably why they took the rest with them. I hope it was Murphy Summer. I hope it was. I bet you, I would love that. Speaking of what phantasmatic ether, you're here. Okay, so you told me one time on my live that you liked my vape because she heard me vape one night and she's like, "Tanya, you vaping?" So this is what it used to be. I broke it today. I broke the glass, busted it out of there, and as soon as it happened, I thought of you. I don't know why I thought of you though. I was like, "Oh, that's bad." First thing this morning, so that was my day. So then Vincent went and got me another one, and look how it's little. It's like its cousin. Same color. So I had to show Phantasmatic Ether that, because she liked my vape one time. Yeah, I have a iPad stand, and it's metal, and it just rolled right off the bed, and it hit the right spot, and I was like, ooh, not good. Dickies, they do sell jumpsuits. Let's see. They sell actually coveralls too. And it was cold. Don't they sell like the coveralls that are like the whole, like it covers you all the way? Yeah, like this. $49.99. Let's see. Kind of looks like the guy with the white mask. What's his name? Jason or something? That's scary to think. Ooh. Like that literally makes my stomach go. Yeah, I did break it. At least I got a new one though. Vincent went and got that new one for me. I was really thankful for that. But yeah, look at that. And that could be something that, that could be something you could wipe off. It looks like that's the kind of material it is for $50. Your husband has Dickies coveralls. Do they keep them warm? I bet you they're... I'm going to grab my drink. I bet you they're nice to have, but not for him. I was going to ask Robin if Walmart sold Dickies. I thought they did. I thought that they did. So he could have got... Yeah, and then he could have got the Vans at Marshall's. Yeah, and then he had a face mask on too. Yeah, Maddie, he did have a face mask on. Oh, man, this is just... They didn't get any of that, though. So he took that with him, I'm assuming. That he took the mask, the clothes. I would think that... I don't know. You would think he would get rid of all of that. Because they said they only have the tag and the receipt for it. But they're going to wonder where the clothes are. They're going to say, "Okay, buddy, you just bought these on, you know, so-and-so date. Where are they? Yeah, he wouldn't even need, yeah. Man, that's crazy. Okay, let's go see what Dr. Phil's about. That's insane. Okay, yep, we watched all of that. I do have the whole, like I said, this whole docket too we can go through tomorrow. A lot of it is the same thing, so I won't read the repetitive stuff to you guys. And if you're just now joining us, we're just getting ready to start the Dr. Phil episode here. So if you're with us for a while, if you've been with us for a while on this channel, you saw the first Dr. Phil episode where they talked about the victims and they talked about, you know, what happened the night of the crime and all of that. And now they're starting to talk about the Kohlberger now in this episode. Also, if anybody needs me to pause it or rewind in case they didn't, you know, they thought they heard something that's good, let me know in the comments. I'll try to be right in the comments with you guys. Also, if I pause, it's probably because we heard something good.
On and all.
Here, let me turn it up a little bit.
New Dr. Phil. Eerie new details about the Idaho murder suspect. I do get a sense this is a game to him.
A game he believed he was winning.
His interaction with law enforcement. Seems like he's answering questions that aren't asked. He's deflecting. What crime experts are saying about the DNA.
The car is a rolling crime scene.
Do you think he left that sheath on purpose?
It could have just been a calling card.
The gruesome murders of 4 university students in Moscow, Idaho, remained a mystery for 7 weeks until a potential break in the case. Law officials arrested suspect Brian Kohlberger from a DNA sample at the crime scene, cell phone records, and that now infamous white Hyundai Elantra. On November 13th, couple Ethan and Zaina and best friends Kaylee and Madison were stabbed to death in their house near the campus of the University of Idaho after a night out. The murders shocked the nation and left the families begging for answers. As the holidays came and went, detectives quietly gathered clues and eventually led to Kohlberger's arrest in Pennsylvania at his parents' house. Now, they charged the 28-year-old PhD student with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Disturbing details of just what occurred during the early morning hours inside that house have been released, including what one of the surviving roommates said she heard coming from another bedroom, and what she described she saw when she opened her bedroom door.
There are eye-opening revelations today as murder suspect Brian Kohlberger appears in court.
All right. Count 4 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree.
Court document reveals that one of the roommates who survived the massacre heard victim Kaylee Gonsalves say, "There's someone here." The roommate, Dylan Mortensen, saw the killer clad in black clothing and a mask walking towards her. She was in frozen shock as he walked past her and out of the house.
Mortensen described the figure as a tall male with bushy eyebrows.
She saw the bushy eyebrows, and then she goes and locks herself in a room and doesn't call 911. I mean, they weren't called for 8 hours.
The documents also reveal the killer dropped a knife sheath like this one. It was found on the floor near the bodies of Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, allegedly with Kohlberger's DNA on the button snap.
Police say cell phone records show Kohlberger's phone near the murder scene at least 12 times before the night of the stabbings, beginning in August.
Kohlberger had been spying on the victims, all of them, for many days leading up to the murders, which shows that they were targeted.
On the night of the murders, his car can be seen on video arriving at the house and then speeding away. Prosecutors say he actually returned to the murder scene at 9:12 a.m. that morning and stayed in the area for 14 minutes.
There are still some things we don't know. We don't know a motive, we don't know if the suspect knew the victims, and we don't know where the murder weapon is. As for Kohlberger, he'll remain in the Layton County Jail without bail.
Well, Kohlberger is back in court today for a preliminary status hearing. And today we're going to delve into what we know about this suspect and analyze behavior leading up to and surrounding the murders. Now, to help me is Joseph Scott Morgan, distinguished scholar of forensics at Jacksonville State University and host of podcast Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. Now, Jonathan.
Just to let you guys know, if you were with us yesterday on the live, yesterday morning, we actually watched the third edition of the Joseph Scott Morgan, the Body Bags podcast with the one with Nancy Grace. It's under like her crime stories with Nancy Grace, but it's his actual podcast. So I just wanted to give you the heads up there.
Gilliam, former FBI special agent, Navy SEAL, Caitlin Becker, senior reporter from DailyMail.com, and Mercedes Colwin, trial attorney and national legal analyst. So thank you all for being here. We've talked about this before, and I really want to delve into it. I want to start by acknowledging the accuracy of what we discussed and talked about before, because predictions here really were pretty darn spot on about what we talked about before. Our experts mentioned the suspect would live close by, and Brian Koberger actually lives 8.4 miles from the victim's house in Moscow, Idaho. They described the murderer as someone with narcissistic tendencies, most likely young and a college student. He is 28 and a student at Washington State University who was bullied in high school, an obsessive vegan and many have described him as a know-it-all, very narcissistic in his mindset. We said whoever did this would most likely appear back at the crime scene, and his phone pinged at 9:12 a.m., just hours after the murders, right back in front of the house. We also said DNA would very likely trace this suspect because you can't do what was done and not have some DNA, contact, sweat, blood, whatever. And the FBI were able to match his DNA to the knife sheath left at the crime scene. We talked about how the suspect would have very likely left town, and he in fact drove cross country with his father to Pennsylvania a few weeks later when there was kind of this mass exodus from the town as people were wanting to get away. So now that the arrest has been made and we've learned more, what's the most significant thing that's jumped out at you as you've learned more about this?
Well, for me, Dr. Phil, I think when the affidavit came out, I was absolutely shocked with how rich in information it was. We don't normally see something like this, and particularly as it went to DNA. They talk about the button clip that's on this sheath that was left behind. It was found, obviously, in the bed adjacent to the victims. And that's probably going to arise, that identification is going to arise from what's referred to as touch DNA.
Now, this is very much like what was found there.
Right.
And the button that we're talking about is this one right here.
Yes, it is.
Which you have to, snap and get out. And contact DNA was found on this button right here.
Yeah, and so what you're looking at, just think about, okay, let me kind of break this down. You're talking about touch DNA, which for all of us, if you have dry skin, you slough dead skin cells all of the time. And so in this particular case, he would have left potentially several elements that they could identify there, these dead skin cells. And you only find a partial strand of DNA in that. But they did find something there that tied directly back to him. And the fact that it was in such close proximity to the bodies might even be an indication as a starting point to when all of this happened. And so this is very powerful information. And it's not necessary that we have the knife at this point, because the knife actually could leave behind more evidence. One of the things that we do at autopsy, at examination, is we do full body x-rays. Okay, just let that sink in just for a second. We do full body x-rays. So this knife, allegedly, has been used repeatedly, 4 times. Okay, let's just think about that. The structural integrity of this thing begins to wear down. It'll chip. It'll chip. Sometimes points break off. I've seen this any number of times at autopsy. If that is the case, they may very well have recovered a metal fragment from the blade of that knife within the body. And if that is the case as well, you can do metallurgical analysis on that. And the reason that's important is you can tie it back to a specific manufacturer. Just because the sheath was found there doesn't mean that that's the knife that was carried. So you look for a specific forensic tie back relative to the chemical structure of the blade as well. That might be a potential here in this case.
Okay, and you know this knife well. Is it your belief, with this being the sheath, that this was the type of knife that was used?
Most likely. That is a K-bar knife, and that with the Marine Corps insignia on the sheath, that symbolizes that particular knife.
Okay.
And the branch of the service that used that. We also use that in the Navy.
All right, we got to take a quick break. Coming up, police pulled over Brian 2 times on his way to Pennsylvania with his father. How did he act? We're going to take a look at the police body cam footage when we come back.
Suspect Brian Kohberger allegedly dumped trash into the garbage cans of his parents' neighbors as he hid evidence linking him to the 4 Idaho student murders. FBI agents watching his parents' home in Pennsylvania reportedly saw Kohberger wearing surgical gloves and go house to house at 4 a.m. with garbage bags.
The agents immediately go retrieve the trash. And it's a good thing they did, because they found in that trash discarded items that match back to the sheet that was left beside one of the dead victims on the bed.
The FBI was able to collect DNA from the trash to connect Kohberger to a knife sheath left at the crime scene. Now, allegedly, they also witnessed him cleaning his car multiple times. Now, he was pulled over in his white Hyundai Elantra twice when he was driving cross country with his dad to Pennsylvania. Now, here is police body cam footage from the first time he and his father were pulled over, allegedly for tailgating on December 15th.
Take a look at your driver's license real quick, if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
What?
I don't mean to stop it already, but did you hear him say yes, sir? Because he did. He said, yes, sir. So he does know how to, talk to authority, people of authority, respectfully. Because I feel like when he was in front of the judge, he kept saying yes, no, but not one time did he say like, yes, your honor, no, your honor. Is that still a thing? Because I feel like I still used to say that. If I was in front of a judge right now and that judge was like, Tanya, I'd be like, yes, your honor. No ma'ams in there either. Don't throw no ma'am up in there. But he did. So he's okay with saying it around men is what I'm kind of getting to, because, he was okay with saying it there. I'm just going to rewind it just a tad bit and see if you hear it. But I don't, right here.
Take a look at your driver's license real quick, if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
What's WSU?
Yeah, I go to the university, basically. That is SWAT team area.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours. We're driving. Well, almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
There was a mass shooting and everything. Well, it's horrifying because he's going to the university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
I actually do work there.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
This happened last week. About an hour and a half ago. Still wrapping it up. Investigating. I will not capture this too, shoes, that they did shoot somebody,
Let's see.
and then you don't know about that actually. You
Well,
were there for the article that there was something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. But do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Now, Mercedes, it has not been confirmed, but I think they stopped him twice on the way, which is pretty unlikely just randomly. It seems to me it's very likely that that was a coordinated effort to check on this car, check on what was going on. And when I look at this in live behavior, it seems like he's answering questions that aren't asked. He's deflecting.
Yep.
That's not responsive.
Right.
That whole thing felt wrong to me. What's your take on that?
It's so true, Dr. Phil. The first thing I noticed is how wide-eyed he was. He doesn't want to engage with the officer. It's obviously very clear. And he keeps going up and sort of this tilt, and he starts correcting his father when his father starts talking about, well, I think there was a shooting, someone was shot. He's correcting his father. He just wants to get out of there. There was almost, you can see that his affect was, I'm not comfortable. I don't want to continue this exchange. I just want to continue driving.
Yeah, put yourself in, as hard as it might be, put yourself in the position of knowing you've just committed 4 brutal murders, and you look in your rearview mirror and you see lights.
Sure.
And you're being pulled over. It's like, whoa.
Yes.
So you're going to be, your heart's going to be beating 300 beats a minute, and then somebody comes up and they start asking questions, and you notice they didn't ask for insurance, they didn't ask for car registration, they didn't issue a warning, they just wanted to chat him up a little bit. Eyeball him, see if his father was under duress or anything, who was in the car with him, and then, okay, don't do that again. So long.
Jonathan and I talked about this just a little while ago. We think that they may have been attempting to see if he was going to bolt, to see if he was going to, put the accelerator to the floor and just take off. And, twice like this so quickly.
I also find, and this isn't uncommon for the Bureau to follow people for long periods of time. I wouldn't doubt there was many other things going on that they knew who he was and were trying to check some things out with him. But one of the things I found very interesting in that circumstance was I felt like the father was more nervous than the son at that point, which going right along with, I've been going through and pouring through your series, fill in the blanks, when you talk about Machiavellian narcissism and psychopaths. And when I watch him, I think he's already starting to display the signs of somebody who's playing the game. He's being satiated again by this game. And that's kind of what I saw there. I didn't see him as nervous as I did see him trying to think his way through something. And his father you can see the difference in somebody there that is truly nervous. His father was truly nervous.
I saw annoyance too. There's one point where he's clearly not answering the question that is asked. Where are you going? Going to get Thai food. You know that's not what this officer is asking. He is asking where you are going, not just for Thai food. And his dad keeps saying, we're from Washington State University, and then we're heading to Pennsylvania. And there is a split second where he says that, and Kohberger looks down, and he does that is what I zeroed in on, that his dad was giving too much information.
Yeah, he's clearly thinking, will you shut up and roll that window up so we can get the hell on down the road? Now, a classmate reveals how Kohberger behaved in the days following the murder. And that's really interesting. We're going to hear from him next.
Could you all imagine, though, really that? Like, just imagine that. Like, I want to, my pants whenever I get pulled over for a speeding ticket, right? Or if there's a cop behind me and I might have jerked went out of line or something. But can you imagine you murdered 4 people back in Idaho, you're cross country it up with old Pops. Pops don't know about it, you don't think. And you get pulled over twice. I would have ran. I don't care, y'all. I would have. He was cool. He was cool in my book. He had the look, oh shit. He had all that, but he didn't bolt. I would have bolted. The car wouldn't have even been pulled over on the side of the road. I don't know how you can have that mindset just to pull on over and you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting pulled over, but it's fine. And then you're talking about Thai food and then you get pulled over a second time and you're fine. I mean, he had to have been. I would have been freaking out if I was just getting pulled over for speeding. But woo, that's not what he was getting. I mean, he was just getting pulled over so they could talk to him. They didn't even ask him like for his license registration. He did get his license, I think, for one of them, but I don't think they asked for his registration. I would have been speeding away. Princess Megan also, she would have been with me. We would have been out. Can't imagine Tanya doing that. Oh, she would. She would, though. I mean, I wouldn't murder 4 people, you know, but I would speed. I would be terrified. Like, I'm just one of those people, I hate being in trouble. So, like, if I was ever in trouble, I would just want to run away. But we are watching the Dr. Phil episode, everybody. Good morning. I guess it's morning for you there. Where are you from? It's night here in Ohio in the United States. But if you guys could like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are running a giveaway. Our giveaway is going to be on Saturday. We're going to announce the winner. So make sure you're here for the live. And I also did a video yesterday or day before yesterday, and it says 5,000 subscriber giveaway. If you want to check that out, it'll give you all the details. And we are going to be almost to our 10,000 subscriber giveaway before we know it. I'll turn this down a bit before I turn it up.
I'm your assistant.
My assistant there, okay.
After the murders, suspect Brian Kohlberger returned to school at Washington State University, where classmate Ben Roberts told cable news network News Nation he noticed changes in Brian's behavior.
We're in Pullman, Washington, where a classmate in the same criminology program as Kohlberger tells News Nation exclusively that Kohlberger's behavior was clearly different in recent weeks.
Brian seemed like he was on the knife's edge between exhaustion and burnout.
That's how Ben Roberts described Brian Kohlberger's demeanor before he left for winter break.
I did notice that he became a little chattier. He became a little more animated. Mostly what I noticed, though, is he was always showing up a little late, and he was always showing up with a cup of coffee in hand. He seemed like he was more exhausted going into the tail end of the tour.
According to Roberts, the Moscow murders were not discussed in class, but often Kohlberger commanded their conversations.
He very much liked it when everybody in the room knew that he knew what was going on. He had to make absolutely sure you understood that he was smart, that he had this intellectual capacity.
You know, everybody is relieved that the suspect has been arrested. Mm-hmm. I don't think this case is nearly over. No. I don't think this is an open and shut case. I think it's going to be, it could be 2 years before this gets to trial, if it does, right?
Exactly.
And this guy's not a bricklayer or an accountant or whatever. He's in a program for criminology. Sure. And he really fancies himself really smart, smartest person in the room, and he's studying criminology, and he applied to the police department for an internship, right? So he's immersed himself in all of this, and I do get a sense that a big part of this is a game.
I think it's a game, and I think it's a game he believed he was winning up until his arrest, and maybe he still thinks he can get away with it. The point that the student that we just heard made about him always wanting to be seen as the smartest person in the room is a common thread with a lot of people that we've spoken to who know or knew Brian Kohlberger. There's this idea that he needs to push his intelligence, and we even saw a little bit of that in that interaction with his father. As you said, he corrected his dad when his dad said something that wasn't necessarily true, but didn't matter. He didn't have to correct his dad. It had nothing to do with anything. So the idea of this intelligence and him being the smartest person in the room is something that we keep seeing. This alleged killer is the person they are looking for. It clearly led to mistakes because he left DNA. Well, the killer saw someone in the house. There definitely seems mistakes in that he probably thought he knew better.
But let me point something out here that worries me, because everybody's talked about the fact that the behavior suggests this was premeditated. Sure. That this wasn't just an impulse thing, that he saw one of the 4 and followed them home and did this on impulse, that it was premeditated. And then mistake-wise, he left the sheath at the scene of the crime. Big mistake. There was a footprint at the scene. Right. He brings his own car to the crime scene. did not dispose of the car. His phone pings 12 times, suggesting stalking around the house. He turns it off. The crimes are committed. Then the phone comes back on. These are really stupid mistakes. And I'm wondering if the defense here is going to be to flip the script and say, you know, come on, this guy's trained in criminology. He's brilliant. Right. He's in a PhD program. Do you really think he doesn't have sense enough to leave his phone at home if he's going to do that? Do you think he would set up an electronic trail of stalking around the house with 12 pings, then turn his phone off, do the crime, then turn it back on right afterwards? It's like he's pointing fingers at himself. He's not that dumb. I'm afraid they're going to use the mistakes that they're indicting him with as a defense, saying this is not something they would do, and flip the script. And you only have to get one juror to have reasonable doubt. You get one juror with oppositional defiant disorder that goes against the rest of the jury, and this guy walks out with a hung jury. That's why I say this is not over.
You're so right, Dr. Phil. The greatest vulnerabilities to the prosecution of this killer, if he is in fact the killer, is going to be the collection of evidence and his profile as a person. So the fact that he is so educated, has this great degree, how weird is that you're going to have a mass killer who's actually getting a PhD in criminology? It doesn't fit the bill.
Look at the survey that Brian Kohlberger created and put up on Reddit to have criminals respond to. The first question, did you struggle or fight the victim? How did you travel and enter the location that the crime occurred? How did you leave the scene? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this point. After committing the crime, what were you thinking and feeling? What was the first move you made in order to accomplish your goal? Please detail any thoughts and feelings at this point. Before making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling. After arriving, what steps did you take prior to locating the victim or target? That is, the person or object. Please detail your thoughts and feelings.
Here's what the prosecution is going to use. They're going to use that survey against him. If you match up that survey against that affidavit, it's mind-blowing. The very first question he asked in that survey, where he's trying to ask about the emotions that people are feeling when they're committing crimes, is how did you target your victims? Well, you go back to the affidavit and they go back to the 12 pingings of his phone in and around that place. Well, if he's getting information from criminals on how they successfully committed these crimes, that very first step is something that he's already done. The second step, well, what did you do in preparation for the crime? Well, if he's in fact the killer, obviously he's only a suspect, he turns the phone off. We know that in the affidavit, it says that phone turned off for the duration of the time that he allegedly traveled to the home, committed the crimes, and then only until he was back on the highway did the phone go back on. So all these steps that he asked these criminals in the survey, he seems to have duplicated in the affidavit, according to law enforcement. And frankly, so if that's the case, if this is a successful prosecution, what are we looking at? A sick social experiment?
I think part of it is he's wanting to live vicariously through it. And part of it is he's wanting to know what to expect, because I don't have normal emotions, and I don't want to panic. I need to know what to expect, what to think. That's odd.
Well,
he's asking odd questions.
The word goal stands out to me too.
Yeah.
How did you achieve your goal? I have goals. We all have goals. They're positive things. They're not crimes for the most part. So the fact that he is talking to criminals about their crimes and describing them as goals definitely struck me as odd, and that the person who's writing that question finds crime to be something to aspire to.
Yeah, and his criminology professor says, you know, these are typical questions. These are things that you ask, but in the context and timing in which he does them, I don't believe in coincidence.
No.
Well, and also when it comes to the absence of evidence is often proof that in somewhat of guilt, because when he turned his cell phone off, when he turned it back on, those are the absence of the cell phone but you still have the videotape of the car is actually proof that he was structuring his behavior in a way as not to get caught.
He just thought he was smarter than everybody else.
He
I
did.
think that's where it flows from. That he would not.
Left the sheath, but we have no knife. And the biggest thing, he held onto this car. And my contention is with the car is a rolling crime scene, Doc. It is a rolling crime scene because anything that happened in that house, and we know it was quite ghastly, is transferred from him to the interior of that car, but yet he holds on to the point where he's going to get his daddy to travel across country in it to their home adjacent to the Poconos. Just absorb that for a second, that there has been no prior attempt. Apparently, the FBI may have had a team sitting on him. They witnessed him clean the car,
He didn't clean it until Pennsylvania. He didn't clean it until 7 weeks after the crime.
To that point, it's almost like it's an inchoate offense almost. It's just like
I think they'll find that knife. I think the knife could potentially be found because I think, like the car and these things, I think these are part of his operational tools. It's no different than a go bag for me.
Well, Mercedes, you think he left that sheath on purpose, maybe?
It could be. I mean, it's almost as if, and we've seen this with other killers, it's the calling card. I got this. And especially if you think you're smarter than everybody else. And he had gloves, at least that's what's presumed, that he had gloves. He tried to cover himself, did something to dispose of the clothing, if in fact is the killer. Then, of course, this is something that it could have just been a calling card and left it there. But to your point, Dr. Phil, I don't think this investigation is going to continue. Definitely. I think Jonathan's right. We're going to presumably find the knife. The FBI is involved. We were talking about this in the green room. They are I think that the most aggressive investigators, bar none.
Right.
They take their time.
This is going to be, hopefully will not stop with Idaho. I hope that this continues because I think he fits a pattern when we look at what he did in Pennsylvania in a brewery and how he acted, and that he was asked to leave and not do these behaviors again. He was a stalker. He asked odd questions. His dominant behavior with his parents who were doting over him. I think all this leads to this perfect evil mix of somebody who he was also bullied, and then he, was very intellectual and doted on. All these things are pushing towards this repeating every now and then. The perfect storm occurs where one of these individuals will go to the point where they actually carry out these desires. I think they're going to find that, and the FBI is the one to do that.
Well, they'll certainly stay after it, and they may have more than we already know.
Yeah.
Up next, one of the victim's roommates saw the killer face-to-face after she...
I was just going to answer a question in the chat. It said, Isabel said 2,000 miles to collect dad's DNA. Brian lived 10 minutes away, explain. I think they didn't have enough probable cause, and that's why they were following him to wait until they could get the probable cause, because they hadn't even entered his apartment yet in order for them to really collect anything. The only thing they would have is from the crime scene, and maybe the probable cause has some stuff in there, but it doesn't have a whole lot. It just has, a bloody footprint, but it doesn't, it says Vans, but we don't know if they found a pair of Vans at his house. At that point, they weren't even inside of his home. They were just kind of following along, I think. I think they were just following him to wherever he was going. They were going to follow along with him. So I think so anyway. What do you guys think? And I'll turn those back on. We have about 10 more minutes of this episode.
Heard crying. Why did it take her 8 hours to call the police? We'll talk about that next.
One thing back to the affidavit that I think a lot of people were surprised by was the fact that one of the roommates was awake when the killer walked by, and that the 911 call wasn't made until hours and hours later.
I do know Dylan is really young, and she was probably really, really scared. And until we have any more information, I think everyone should stop passing judgments, because you don't know what you would do in that situation.
One of the surviving roommates was actually face-to-face with the murderer, but was frozen in fear, and police were not called until 12 noon the next day. Now, as you just saw on Cable News Network, News Nation, Kaylee's sister, Olivia, says, don't be too quick to judge. Now, let me talk about that for a minute. I wasn't there, and you weren't there, And we know now what happened. We know now what that perpetrator had done when they were walking down that hall to exit the house. That roommate didn't know that. She didn't know 4 murders had been committed. She didn't know what this person was doing. So I don't know what was in her head at the time, but I know we know things now that she didn't know in the middle of the night right there. And we don't know what was normal for that house.
Yeah.
Right.
People coming and going, and 4 different people living there, and you open the door and there's somebody, and I'm not saying that someone else might have done something different, but
she deserves grace.
People have different responses when you don't know where they are. I'm just saying I wouldn't be too quick to judge a young person in that situation. When we know 4 murders have just been committed, she doesn't know that. She just knows there's somebody going by in the hall out there, and sometimes you maybe mind your own business. I don't know what the norm is for that house. Now, I want to introduce someone else to this conversation. Reporter Brian Inton from News Nation is in Idaho, where he has been covering this story from day one. Now, Brian, welcome. You've interviewed all of Kaylee's family. If you can, share with us what their overall feelings in regard to this particular suspect and how they're doing, understanding that the norm would not be very well. I understand that, of course.
Yeah, they say, Dr. Phil, that they felt a sense of joy and relief when the arrest was made, obviously, because they've been living on edge, worried with this person still out there. So initially felt relief, but now feel this feeling of just being overwhelmed. I mean, I was in the courtroom here in Moscow, Idaho. It's a small courtroom. The family was there when Bryan Kohberger was brought in. They were sitting just about 5 to 7 feet away from Kohberger. So they just felt so overwhelmed by being that close to the man accused of killing Kaylee. And just sort of this feeling that now they've got to go through the whole court process. They say they want to be at every single hearing, and just knowing how difficult that's going to be moving forward. But you were talking about the surviving roommate. They are standing by her right now. You heard Kaylee's sister Olivia say it, Dr. Phil. They don't want people to judge that roommate right now, saying that no one was in her shoes and no one knows exactly how they would have reacted in that situation.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And if they believe this is the right person, they have to envision this monster of a perpetrator being on top of their beautiful, innocent, sweet daughter with a horrific weapon in their hand, stabbing her to death, and then sitting 5 feet away from that person. How did they do that? How did they look at this individual?
I mean, they're an incredibly strong family. I can say that. I've been talking to them since the beginning of all of this because we've been on the ground here in Idaho. And I think this is probably the most challenging part. I mean, Kaylee's mom, Christy, was visibly emotional during the whole thing. I think one thing that they're having a really hard time with is when you go through that affidavit, and you mentioned it, all the cell phone pings and the timestamps and the 12 times police say that Kohberger was outside this house behind me before the murders. The family is going back and looking at text messages and phone calls that they had with Kaylee talking about baking recipes. And they were on the phone with her during some of those times when Kohberger is accused of stalking the house. And that's been really, really hard for them, matching up those happy times with Kaylee with knowing that, according to police, Kohberger may have been right outside.
Wow, that's got to be eerie for them. And I know you've spoken to Prosecutor Bill Thompson, and after the break, I want you to tell us about that conversation. We'll be right back. We've been digging into the details this hour surrounding the Idaho murder suspect, Bryan Kohberger. And right now, we're really getting down to what's happening in Moscow, Idaho. And we're talking to Brian Inton, who is there on the ground, has talked to family members and has also spoken to Prosecutor Bill Thompson. Can you tell us what he says in your conversations with him? How confident are they? Do they have a prosecution plan, and do they have a lot more than they've revealed so far?
I can tell you this. I mean, we were hard on the police for a long time, and so were the families and the people here in this community, because there was no information leaking out throughout the entire investigation. Basically, everyone on the outside thought that they knew nothing. And so there is this feeling of redemption, I think, amongst law enforcement here, because it turns out they knew a lot from the very early stages and were working very, very hard behind the scenes. And according to most people, had a very, very solid case. But at this point, the gag order is now in effect, so they've stopped all communication with the families, with the public, and with the media too.
Is it your sense that they are confident in their case?
Yes, I think they're very confident. They've got the DNA link from the snap on the knife sheath. And I was in Pennsylvania when the arrest went down. One of the first things they did when they got Kohberger into custody is they did another direct DNA swab on him. We don't know the results of that. We'll hopefully find out at the next hearing, but likely they're going to try to connect him directly through DNA, not just through ancestral.
He waived extradition and came back to Idaho in due course. I'm curious what your opinion of that is, being there. That does one thing for sure. It allows them to see the indictment and know what the prosecution has, as opposed to fighting extradition and not knowing that right away. From the defense side, did they say anything in court that gave you any indication of what their position might be in all of this?
All they said in court before he left Pennsylvania was that he was innocent. They put out a statement saying that, and that he wanted to get back here to fight the charges. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Dr. Phil. The way the law is set up in Idaho, when he was in Pennsylvania, Kohberger and his team, his lawyers, they weren't allowed to see the probable cause affidavit. He had to be on the ground here in Idaho for it to be released even to them. So they were basically flying blind when they were in Pennsylvania. They didn't have any of the details. So it seems they wanted to rush him back here so that they could at least find out what was going on behind the scenes in terms of what police and the prosecution actually knew.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us about this. I know you're on the ground up there, and there's nothing like being there and getting a sense of the vibe in the community and what's going on. And I hope we can talk again, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. Great job. Great job. Police were seen removing blood-stained mattresses, trash bags, and cardboard boxes from the Moscow, Idaho murder scene just a few days ago. We'll talk about that next. We ran out of time today, but we have much more to talk about in the case.
Okay, and let me see here. I was going to show you guys something. Just trying to read your comments. Yeah, this case gets me deep in my feelings too. It's really, it's a rough one. For people, literally doing nothing at all but what we do every night. It wasn't even like they were being like most college kids, you know what I mean? Like they were in a pair. They were doing their due diligence. They really were. They were being smart. They came home with a private driver or a private party, whatever you want to call them at this point. But it was a friend that took them home. They went to the food truck together. They went home together. They went to the bar together. I mean, it was like it wasn't like one left the other, and then with Zane and Ethan, they both, were at a party together. It's just so sad. It really is. If you guys are just now joining and you have to watch the rest on replay, but if you're just now joining, earlier we did talk about the unsealed search warrant for Brian Kohberger. I'm going to go over the whole affidavit tomorrow. It's like 49 pages. I'm not doing all those pages to you guys. I'm going to try to go through it and get the most, whatever we need to know, the stuff we need to know, the stuff that we don't need to know, I'll just skim through that. That way we're not here, all day tomorrow reading that. But I did go over that. And then also we are doing a contest. So we did hit our 5,000 subscriber. Our next contest after this will be 10,000 subscribers, which we're already on our way there. So if you go to my main page, so I'll just share this with you really quick. So if you see, this is my page. If you go here, you can join my little membership there, you know, just join there. Don't forget. No, and then come down to this video here. It says giveaway. And then you'll just click on that video and it'll tell you exactly what to do to enter the giveaway. It's extremely simple, very, very easy. So I think that's all I really have for you guys for tonight. My back is killing me, or I usually would stick on, you know, and hang out with you guys for a long time. You know that I love hanging out with y'all. Oh, thank you so much. You are too. I thought the same thing when I put your thing up earlier. When I put your thing, the banner up, I was like, she's gorgeous. A lot of y'all though, some people, you look like Summer over here. She looks like Marilyn Monroe. Looks like a Marilyn Monroe with the blonde hair. That's what she reminds me of. You probably get that a lot. I have a friend, I used to work with her, and she is like a spitting image. She like dresses up like her like every Halloween. It's like her thing. So yeah, so one's name's Brian, B-Y-R, or B-R-Y-A-N, and the other Brian Eaton, is B-R-I-A-N. And then there's one more Brian that is Brian that with the on a wash case, and you have, like, you can see my playlist or my video of her right there. Her husband's also named Brian. So lots of Brians. But that is all I have for you guys for tonight. I will be back on tomorrow at my normal time, 10:15 a.m. We normally do a.m. Lives, and then sometimes I'll come back. I want to do evening lives, but it's been working out very well for the morning. But if that's something that you guys are like, oh, I can't do a morning, let me know in the comments and we'll adjust accordingly. And we'll figure something out for everybody. Yeah, my back's like, oh, it's bad today. I think it's because I was in the car too long. So I am going to hop off here, and I will see you guys all tomorrow morning. Have a great night, guys. Bye.